Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. A Little Life was published in 2015 and it was shortlisted for the 2015 Man Booker Prize. The novel explores the life of Jude St. Francis, a talented and successful lawyer in New York City, as he struggled to cope up with his traumatic childhood. We have many parts in this. In this part 1, it introduces four friends who have recently graduated from college: Jude St. Francis, William Ragnarsson, J.P. Marian, and Malcolm Irwin. While the four are close, differences in their background creates distances between them. Jude and William are both from modest backgrounds. William's parents moved to Wyoming from Eastern Europe and worked as ranch hands until their deaths, while JP and Malcolm both come from wealthier families. JP's parents are both Haitian American, while William is white and Malcolm has a black father and white mother. JB is gay, while William is straight and Malcolm is still trying to figure out his sexuality. None of them knows anything specific about Jude's background, whether what about his family history, his sexuality, or even his race, because he is an elusive and mysterious character. The other three men work towards their professional goals. William is striving to be an actor, JB a visual artist, and Malcolm an architect. At the end of part 1, Jude injures himself badly in what looks suspiciously like a suicide attempt, despite his denials, creating the first glimpse into his troubled psyche. Beginning in part 2, the narrative shifts from focusing primarily on Jude's three friends to primarily on Jude. We learn that Jude habitually cuts himself and also about his traumatic past. He was abandoned by his parents outside a drugstore as a baby. Then he was taken in and raised by monks who tolerated him at best but sexually abused him at worst. He also suffered a terrible injury that resulted in permanent spine damage that causes him leg pain and complications for the rest of his life. In the present day, Jude develops such a close relationship with one of his law professors, Harold. Harold and his wife adopt Jude. In part 3, all four of the original friends' careers are on the rise. Jude takes a job at a prestigious law firm, but his legs are getting worse, causing him so much pain that he often has to spend many consecutive days in his wheelchair. He purchases a loft apartment and hires Malcolm, who is now an architect with his own firm, to design and complete the renovations for it. JB meanwhile struggles with drug addiction despite his own successful career as a painter. His friends eventually stage an intervention, but JB insults Jude with a cruel impression of his limp, severing their friendship. Part 4 is primarily devoted to a sexual relationship Jude enters with a man called Caleb, and that quickly becomes abusive. Caleb treats Jude's disability with cruelty, accusing him of weakness, and eventually escalates to beating him up. The worst final beating leaves him unconscious and badly injured, needing hospitalization and bed rest for weeks afterwards. Eventually, the trauma from this relationship becomes too much to bear, and Jude attempts suicide but is discovered before he dies. In flashbacks, we see that one of the monks at the monastery, Brother Luke, convinced Jude to run away with him and eventually began regularly raping him while also using him as a sex slave for a series of male clients to fund the two as they moved from town to town across the country. In part 5, Jude and William transition from a friendship to a romantic relationship. As they attempt to work through Jude's continued contempt and fear of physical intimacy, Jude's physical health declines and a bone infection in his legs leads to a necessary amputation of his lower legs. In flashbacks, we learn that after escaping Brother Luke, Jude was next sent to a home for parentless children, where counselors again sexually abused him. From there, he ran away and was forced to trade sexual favors in exchange for cross country rides from truckers. During this sojourn, he was kidnapped by Dr. Traylor, who kept him imprisoned in his basement and raped him regularly. Jude only escaped after Traylor ran him over with his car, causing Jude's lasting spinal issues. Part 5 ends with William picking up Malcolm and his wife, Sophie, at a train station for a vacation weekend but getting struck by another vehicle. Part 6 reveals that William, Malcolm, and Malcolm's wife have all died. Jude finds himself unable to deal with his grief. Eventually, he decides to try to kill himself indirectly by starving himself to the point that his weakened and immunocompromised body can be killed by any passing infection. His friends intervene, however, and force him into hospitalization. He reacts in anger until one evening when he lashes out violently at his adoptive parents, Harold and Julia, and finds solace in the fact that they love him anyway. He cannot push them away despite his best attempts. In part 7, first person narration from Harold reveals that Jude has killed himself despite reaching an equilibrium after William's death, at which he was able to resume his social life and interact with others healthily. He never recovered emotionally from the loss of William or from his childhood trauma. He left notes for his closest loved ones, including Harold and Julia, to whom he finally confessed the story of his past, and also he apologizes in the letter. And here ends the story. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.